welcome to our very first episode of the Man Up channel. I am your host, Bob Buckland, and with me today is John Font.
Hello, hello. How we doing?
Today we're going to have a really good episode for you guys, something that's very near and dear to all of our hearts, and that is Star Wars.
It's quite a thing that has changed. I think some of it I know we have changed since the originals. I think I was 6 when I watched the first time I watched Star Wars. But yes, we watched all of the Star Wars as kids, and I can't remember. I watched them no less than 5 or 6 times.
Well, I've watched all 9 movies. Got through the Clone Wars, Rebels, read a lot of the books pre-Disney era, which I think is important to say pre-Disney era. Would you say you have a favorite trilogy?
I think the first one was definitely more of a labor of love because they had to succeed. It was kind of like he had to make the movie good because if he didn't, he wasn't going to get a second deal anyway. So, I mean, I think it was a fight for the life from the beginning, and they had a lot of heart in it. And then I think after that, they were trying to figure out what to do with the CG and so on and so forth, I think, as the prequels were coming down. And I don't know how the story should have rolled out. I think some people are reading too much into it, as I've done some research with this. People were trying to put different races on the different alien races and so on and so forth. And, I mean, I suppose that could be true, but I know nobody really liked Jar Jar, but I don't necessarily think he was a Black Caribbean guy. I don't think he was played, as off as that.
Kind of agree with that. It's, I think we can all come in agreement when we say that we do love the original trilogy. That definitely captured a lot of our imaginations as kids. The prequels kind of went blah.
I think the acting choices could have definitely been better than they were. And I don't know what kind of direction they got, but I know it just was not, I don't know, it just seemed cardboardy almost.
The prequels, it was just a hit and miss. I think they had a lot of cool characters. I really enjoyed seeing the young Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn. I wish he would have survived a little bit longer, and who can forget Mace Windu? Yeah. I mean, he was the total badass of all the Jedi.
I think they definitely did a better job on the sword duels, sword fights. A lot of the little technical things that they did in the prequels were just, the action scenes were definitely way more amazing. The Clone Wars
fight scenes where 2 old guys were just trying to poke each other with lightsabers wasn't doing it for you.
Yeah, I just mean the different multi-level fightings between Obi-Wan and Anakin and Darth Maul.
It was.
Or Anakin wasn't involved at that point. Who was the other guy?
No.
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, that final fight scenes, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul, where all 3 of them were going at each other, that was amazing. I will definitely say within all 3 of the trilogies, the fight scenes in the prequels were by far the best.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, it should be. That was the height of the Jedi Order at that point.
Yeah, yep. Totally. And I think that came out. Did you ever watch a guy went through and remastered the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader in episode 4?
Oh, no, I did not.
You still got to see that. It's so amazing. I don't know how he made it work, but they put in this amazing fight scene, and somehow they used the real face from Alec Guinness, the guy who played Obi-Wan it was really very good. I'll have to look that up and send you a link.
I think the prequels probably could have been better. I mean, obviously they could have been better, but I think a lot of it got lost. They were doing a lot trying to build up that love dynamic for Padme and Anakin to get his heart torn out in that 3rd movie. And then what was up with all that Law and Order part? Because you would just get stuck
in the
council meetings.
Do you remember how, like, I remember my kids loved Cars, and Cars 2 was okay, but my kids weren't excited about it. And by Cars 3, it was just like nostalgia. Right. Like, as an adult, I enjoyed watching Cars 3. My children were done with it after the previews, and I remember buying lots of popcorn because they were bored, so they wanted lots of popcorn to eat. So it was just kind of one of those things. And I think that's where it got to with that. I mean, toward the end of 3 was amazing. Obi-Wan had the high ground. So there was no way Anakin was going to win. He had the high ground. Did you ever read the entire Jar Jar theory that he was the actual Dark Lord of the Sith?
That is by far my most favorite theory of all times. I totally buy into it.
I would. And the thing is it works. It works that he was put into a position on purpose. And the fact that Palpatine happened to be around all that, I don't think that's a mistake by any means. I think George Lucas is smarter than we give him credit for. But then again, the last Indiana Jones movie was pretty whack too. So I don't know.
Yeah, we don't talk about the fourth one. We all agree that it stops there with Final Crusade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Final Crusade was definitely the end. I think they should have just left that.
They should have. They absolutely should have. As I've heard that they're going to try to do a fifth movie, and for the love of God, just let Harrison Ford be done.
Yes. I was sort of interested in seeing his Call of the Wild, because I don't know if that man should do another action
That one
film.
looks good.
I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do with him, though. Call of the Wild is a lot of action.
It is, but, I mean, he has a dog. He has his own Chewie in Alaska.
That's true.
What could possibly go wrong with this one?
Oh gosh, he's like 80. There was a lot of people that were talking about the ones we haven't talked about, the sequels.
Oh my goodness.
The first one I just really felt like I was watching A New Hope again, but done with a bigger budget today. And so that, I don't know, it didn't really I wasn't like, yay or ho boo. It was just kind of like, okay, this is the start off of the new thing. We don't really know how the New Order got here. Like, somehow everything fell apart. Nobody knows really what's going on because, well, there was no backstory. So we're just back to the Rebel Alliance fighting the new Empire.
You know, I will give the first one a pass. I mean, there was a lot of hate going on at the time anyways, because no one was real happy that Disney took over. They stopped the Star Wars books at that current time, which honestly really pissed me off, because if you want to talk about the strong female lead character, they had Jaina Solo in that series, and she was by far the most badass Jedi you ever wanted to read.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of, Mara Jade. I don't know if you ever dealt with any of those books, but those were...
Oh, I love Mara Jade.
And the whole background story with Grand Admiral Thrawn, they were both incredible characters, and I think a lot of that was just great. It was just really good. There was a lot of good core material that they could have built off of, and they just decided not to. I mean, I don't know why you would, with something landing in your lap like that, I don't know why you wouldn't just take it and run.
See, and that's the kicker. Where I left off in the books, they were just... Abeloth, there we go. Abeloth was the Force monster. I don't remember the exacts of it, but it was a great storyline. There was a whole planet of Sith out there. Luke, he had to keep going to the ghost plane, whatever you wanted to call it, to fight someone. I don't remember anymore.
But nobody was riding horses on the surface of a Star Destroyer like they were in the last episode.
They were not doing that. All right, enough sidetrack. Let's go back to the sequels. And you know what? I also give the first one a pass. They had some interesting characters. Poe, Finn, even Rey at the time. Kylo, not so much.
I liked they gave it a little bit of ambiguity. I'm going to say this word. Ambiguity. That you kind of wondered, I mean, at least at the very beginning, I really wondered whether Rey was going to be the Jedi or whether Finn was going to be the Jedi. And I thought it was going to be cool either way. I liked a little bit of story. I liked a little bit of wonder. Like, oh, well, maybe. And I think those things are cool. Like, who was Rey's parents? And like, why was she wandering in the desert? You know, is Luke Skywalker her dad? There were questions that needed to be answered, and you were excited that there was going to be a second movie.
It was. And then we got the second movie. It was awful, let's be honest. It was awful. They're going back and they're trying to save it now, and they're trying to do the spin on it, and it was a good movie. No, it wasn't. Don't feed me that line.
The beginning of it seemed dumb in the beginning when you have a supposedly adult, war-hardened individual who's seen his friends be killed by stormtroopers and death, like, fly up to a giant Star Destroyer and try and make fun of the commander of the Star Destroyer, like with a dumb joke. I thought that they really made Poe and what was the name of that the Star Destroyer captain. He got killed in the end. What was his name?
I know who you're talking about. I don't know the names. None of.
I just really felt like they took something that was supposed to be a serious moment, that should have been a serious moment of what was going on, and they turned it into a joke when it really shouldn't have been a joke. I just felt like it would. I just felt like it was too much serious things trying to happen when the Asian girl, whatever her name was, Rose, when Rose's sister was about to die, and you have Poe making fun of the Star Destroyer captain, and you have all of like this stuff happening, and I'm like, you're trying to mix too many emotions. You're trying to be silly on the one side, but on the other side, you're trying to make like all this emotion happen.
Well, I get trying to make jokes in a serious time. I mean, I do that all the time. Is how I deal with things. But going back to the characters in the movie, I mean, they still had pretty good characters. It's Poe. He was trying to fight for what he believed in, and he didn't know the entire plan of that Leia had cooking. They really did an awful job with Luke Skywalker, though, in that movie. He was supposed to be awesome Grandmaster of all the Jedi Councils at this point, and just a hermit on some island. That is not the Luke Skywalker we got in the books, people. Why would Disney do that to us? And then to go ahead and Snoke was also... I mean, Snoke was built up to be this awesome, almost new Palpatine guy. And he gets lightsabered. He didn't even get off his throne and still died in his golden pajamas.
And there's so many YouTube videos about how terrible that fight really was. About how some guys would like sit there and just do random spins in the middle of the fight. Like if you slow it down and watch it, like they'll just sit there and like, oh, well, I'm not supposed to slice yet and she's not done yet. I'm just going to do a random spin and like just dumb things. And you're like, this was a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar movie. I don't know. They could have spent a little bit of extra time and maybe got some. I mean, after you watch the prequels and you watch the swordplay and you've watched YouTube enough to see guys doing lightsaber battles in parking lots, and those were like 10 times better than what was in the sequels. Just as silly to me in that.
All right, then we move on to the last one, the Rise of Skywalker. There we go. And at that point, you might as well forget about Poe, forget about Finn, forget about Luke, forget about all this good male characters we had at the time.
Well, did you go see Rogue One?
You know what? I did watch Rogue One, and it was, to me, in my opinion, it was just not a good movie. I tried to get into it. I could not get into it. I did like Solo. I wouldn't mind seeing another Solo sequel, but Rogue One, no.
Well, they keep like teasing it, but I think a lot of that stuff's been canceled. I know they've talked about doing a Lando sequel or movie, but I don't know whether I don't know what they're doing now that this Corona thing's going on. So I was reading this Seattle Times article about watching all 9 Star Wars movies in a row, and her entire thing was just like how non-inclusive everything was, and like looking at all the alien species and saying that they all looked like they were people that were racist, that the entire thing is just racist and that should not be that way. And I was like, that's never what Star Wars was about. It was about entertainment. It was never meant to be about, I don't know, it wasn't meant to be a racist movie. It wasn't meant to be inclusive or not inclusive. It was meant to be a fun fantasy film.
No, Star Wars has always been about imagination, sci-fi adventure. Who else hasn't grabbed a broomstick, pretended you were a Jedi, and got into a lightsaber battle? I mean, everybody wanted a lightsaber. Well, I mean, most of us might have wanted to be a Jedi. Me personally, Sith Lord all the way. They always seem to have more fun.
And we're always killed by their pupils. Her closing remarks in the Seattle Times were, when you binge watch the saga, you realize that the prequels and the sequel trilogies were never going to escape the shadow of the originals. The various filmmakers tried to tap that energy and take it to new, exciting worlds, and the series shined. But more often than not, the saga stumbles over its own feet when trying to recreate the past, blending over backwards to satiate fans who never love anything as much as their memories of the first time they met the Skywalkers. And I think that's something that I know for me when I watch movies or I hear new music or so on and so forth, I find that some of it's just me personally. I've gotten older and I've seen more movies and I've done more things. And so some of you don't have that childlike wonder back when you were 6 watching an X-Wing fighter for the first time and didn't know that there were other things out there. And I think that's, I don't go beat my brother with sticks anymore.
All right, let's ask you with this one question. We got to get wrapping up here pretty soon, but all Star Wars, who was the most manliest character out there?
Oh, the most manliest character. I mean, I think you saw Luke Skywalker grow a lot as time went on, and I think that was sort of interesting. Also, I think you also got to see a Darth Vader. I think that was the coolest thing between the prequels and the ones in the middle, where, you kind of got to see how Darth Vader went from being just a kid and growing up, and how he chose a path that was kind of destructive. And then you have Luke Skywalker, who basically kind of gets put through the same thing. He gets to see his family get killed and so on and so forth, and how he chooses a different path. And I've always thought that was the analogy between the two, but I don't know. I think if you're talking about like beast mode, like Darth Vader definitely was beast mode more, I guess, manly in that sense of the word.
In all honesty, I have to give it up to my boy Han Solo. He was by far, no special powers. He only had his blaster on his side, and he went and got the job done.
And it doesn't hurt that it was Harrison Ford playing him. I mean, the guy went on to do like Indiana Jones and everything else, and was definitely a manly character all the way through. And I think that's why so many people loved Harrison Ford, because he had that about him.
He even made it to the sequels. That was probably one of the best scenes in there, when he tried that one last time to get his son back. And then he got shot, took it like a man, said, "I love you," and fell off the bridge. That's manly.
Started strong, ended strong. That's hard. But again, it was the thing he did. And in the end, even though he was dead, he still succeeded, I guess, in getting his son to change. So I think the end of this would be just like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend a movie marathon like this to anyone. It's just not that fun to treat movies like an endurance test, even for fans. But I can guarantee that at least at some point, you will hate Star Wars. If you already do, or you don't, you're willing to take that risk. May the Force be with you.
As we're wrapping this up, I still don't hate Star Wars. They got me. They know they got me. I'm going to keep watching Star Wars. But at the same time, I would really like them to go back. Not even go back. I'd like to see them get away from the Skywalkers. Go for like the Mandalorian style. You know what? It is Star Wars. It is not a story about the Skywalker family. It is a lot of actions, as good story, a lot of good character growth, and that's what we want to see. Is they finally found a winner. We need to use the formula that the Mandalorian gives us and start building on that.
Well, yeah, you have a whole universe that you can deal with. You don't have to stick with one section. I think that was the neat thing that Lucas did, and that's something that you notice when you start off with all the movies. The original movie was mostly set in Tatooine and then expanded from there. And then the second movie gets bigger, and the third movie gets bigger. And he uses the same formula in the prequels. The first movie starts off on Naboo, and pretty much the entire movie is set around Naboo, a little bit in Tatooine, and then it goes to Coruscant and bigger, and then the last one is like bigger and contains the whole galaxy. So I think he used that same thing for the same formula for both movies. I think changing directors for the sequels was a terrible idea. If they'd have stuck with at least the same director, you can at least see that George Lucas, because he was a part of it, had a vision for everything, to where in the sequels you're not sure how that works out. And again, there weren't horses on Star Destroyers. That just irritates me. Like, I don't know. It just irritates me a lot.
It's one of my favorite YouTubers, He How Movies Should Have Ended. He did go ahead and talk about that, and it's all animation if you haven't seen it. But when they find out that there's a bunch of horses on it, you can see the the Star Destroyer just tip ever so slightly, and all the horses just fall off.
I mean, it's like there's no Star Destroyers aren't big enough to have atmospheres. I don't know. It was like but then again, they had people, light speeding through ships that doesn't make any sense either. So not in that universe. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm just gonna stop. Like Luke Skywalker wouldn't have even had to shoot those torpedoes. Why didn't he just light speed his X-wing right through the Star? What? Why'd they even build this Death Star? Like they could have just like hyper speeded I don't know, something through the sun and it would have blown everything up. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So
that's what they did at the end of the second movie.
Yeah.
That ship was pretty much just turned around light speed and just destroyed everything in its path. I mean, why couldn't he have done that to the first Death Star?
Right.
It's over.
It's over. And then there's not even we wouldn't have lost all those ships. That's just dumb. We even have astronauts that know that there's no air in space. So why in the world do they think they can ride horses on a Star Destroyer? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like why? I don't know. I don't know why you would do that.
Were they in a planet's atmosphere at the time?
No, they were flying.
Yeah, I thought they were just kind of hovering above the ground.
Yeah, but even if you're here on Earth and you're like 10,000 feet in the air, there's no air.
Yeah, touche.
I mean, and it's cold, like really cold. There's a guy that flies a little hover thing with a parachute behind him, and he got up to 15,000 feet, and it was cold. He was wearing a snowsuit. I mean, you don't just take a horse up to 15,000. Just no. Why can a little YouTuber like He write better movies than the $1 million people with directors and money and all kinds of stuff? Like, both of his endings to both of the movies were better than the original. I enjoyed them more. And that's the sad fact of life. Oh, goodness. Do we have a good way to end this without losing our rant to whatever we are doing?
I think we do. Disney, if you are ever listening to this, you can go ahead and hire the Man Up channel as your Star Wars consultation specialist, and we'll be more than willing to lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, more lightsabers, more people cut in half. Hire the guy that did the prequels to do your lightsabers.
Other than that, this is the Man Up channel. Go ahead and like and share. We'd love to hear you in the comments whether you like or dislike what we have to say. If you want to leave something for us, go right ahead. And we will catch you next time.
Peace out.